All right. Okay. Hello, everyone. So we're here again today with the lovely Tami McQueen. So I'm Shan from the Kiwi landing pad. Basically, we're here today to learn about content and marketing and to build on the, progress we've made with the sales and marketing jams that we've recently just came back from doing in New Zealand. So today we're going to focus on content. I guess the idea behind these webinars is that we keep on building on the learnings of the jams and learning new stuff, learning more in-depth stuff. So a few, housekeeping things. If you're using Crowdcast for the first time, it works best in Chrome. You won't run into any video or audio issues. At the bottom of the page, there are questions and topics. So if you have any questions, just add a question there, and then we'll get to them as the time goes on. I'll be your moderator, and Tami will be sort of delivering a really awesome presentation. And then also, if you aren't plugged into power, you should be. The video stream works much better quality-wise with that. And then lastly, on the right-hand panel, you have a chat forum. So say hi to everyone and sort of have a bit of banter between all of your peers. And awesome. Tam McQueen, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, good morning, New Zealand. It is wonderful to be joining you during the Auckland Technology Week. I am sitting in Atlanta, Georgia, and it is right at 6 p.m. on Tuesday evening. So this is such a wonderful opportunity. And after the NZSMJ events earlier this year, I am just thrilled to be joining this audience once again. So thank you so much for having me. A little bit about myself, if you aren't familiar or you weren't at one of our jams in April. I was born and raised in Johannesburg, South Africa, made my way to the US about 14 years ago, went to university here and bopped around a little bit and have settled in Atlanta now for the past 6 years. I joined an early stage startup in the SaaS world 2 years ago for a company named SalesLoft. And I started the marketing team here at SalesLoft and really scaled the team all the way from content to social to events and public relations. And that's something I'm going to dive in today with as well. Some of the questions I heard while we were in New Zealand was, well, I'm just one person. How on earth do I build out a team that is just me and make it scalable and really make an impact in the market? So for me, that is something that I love to share with you that we did here at SalesLoft and how you might be able to do that for your marketing team as well, whether it is a team of 1 or a team of 10. So I'm looking forward to sharing this with you and hope that you will send your questions over. I'm also tweeting live. If you know us from the jams, this is something we did quite frequently on stage. I'd love to engage with you on Twitter, and it is local, LOCALAST, local at last. There we go.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I guess we are going to kick into it. Thanks for introducing yourself, Tami. And I guess let's learn how to build a content machine. And again, hashtag is NZSMJ. Find us on Twitter. And if you have any questions, add a question or suggest a topic below. Cool. I'll let you take it away.
Awesome. All right. So as I mentioned, we're going to talk about how to build a content machine. And this is a scalable process where I want you to be able to dive into this and walk away from today's webinar with something that's tangible, something that you can put into action immediately. So often we hop on a webinar, we go to a presentation, or we listen live to panelists or speakers, and it sounds great and it's wonderful. We get jazzed, we get excited and fired up and ready to go. We're going to make an impact, and we get back to our desk and we have no idea where to start, how to do it, or what to even get started on. So when you go through this webinar, I'm going to go through each slide, share is how I built out the team here, how you can apply it to your team, and really take it in any sort of area that you're in, whether it's technology or a B2C company, B2B, and really scale it out so that you can be effective. I also have about 3 different documents that I will give to Sean as well to share with you after this. They are templates to build this out and really allow you to really scale your content process. So let's get started and please feel free to ask some questions on the way. And there's the Twitter handle again over there. Would love for you to tweet and use the hashtag as well. I'm online and I think I can multitask. I think we can do this. I'm seeing some come through, so I'll stop and make sure that we're answering questions as well. One of the biggest things for me is no one likes to feel as though they are being marketed to. No one likes that. No one likes to know that they're being sold to. No one likes a corny email coming across their desk or something really impersonal. Let me tell you, the biggest pet peeve I have on social media is when someone connects with me on LinkedIn with a very generic message. Hey, Tami, I'd like to connect you to my professional network on LinkedIn, and their name. Kid you not, I accept their LinkedIn request, and no less than 5 minutes later, I get a sales pitch. That is absolutely the wrong way to do it. So that personalization does not scale. So I really like to take the idea that great marketing makes the customer feel smart, and good marketing makes the company look smart. It's really about your audience, how they feel about what your company does, what your product does for them as well. Let's keep that in mind as we work through this webinar. All right, now when you are building out your marketing function, I always like to lead with the initiative of what is your mission? Identify your key mission. What is your vision to know that if you have successfully hit the mission, hit the mark on making this mission, what does that look like? That will be successful to you. So for me is to be the world-class authority in sales development. That is our industry. SalesLoft caters and speaks and really champions the sales development industry. So for us and the marketing function, it is to be the world-class authority in sales development. So this is important so you're able to know why is this important, who's going to listen, and how long it's going to take. So this is really important as you understand your mission so that you can answer each of these questions. So when you are doing that, let's just go back one more time. So when you build out your mission, why is this important? Because that's going to allow you to answer a SWOT analysis when you put it together. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your current opportunities? And what are the current threats or potential threats to your team in being successful in driving your mission? You absolutely have to know that. When it says who's going to listen, understand who your audience is. If you're going to be the world-class authority in content marketing, in video, messaging, in whatever industry you're working in, who's going to listen? That means that you have identified your key audience, that your people that you are talking to and that no one else matters in that sort of bucket that you're working with. And how long is it going to take? You absolutely have to put a timeline on these metrics that you are measuring so that you do have a goal, that you have your benchmarks that you can work toward weekly, monthly, quarterly, and then on an annual basis as well. All right, so let's have a look. Sean, do we have any questions at the moment? Anything coming through? We keep rolling.
I don't think we have any questions yet. I think we're good. Guys, do you have any questions? If so, I'll start writing them below.
All right. So then let's have a look at an early stage content team. How do we build this out? And this is a question I get a lot. Well, I am running email marketing. I have to be on social platforms, whether that's Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, all of the things, Snapchat. Where do I need to be? Also, then you're thinking of, well, I have to measure the website traffic. I have to measure our Google Analytics. What about if I have to now also worry about design and video? And there's all of these things. So I like to look at it as a pod, almost like a tripod of a team to build it out. And this includes your builders, your connectors, and your distributors. Now, what does this look like in a fully functioned team? And now, In a very early stage team, 1 or 2 people that you have existing on the team could act as 1 or more of these roles. So don't think, okay, I have to hire 3 people on marketing right now. So ideally, this is what I did in building out the team. A builder is a content marketing specialist per se, someone who's going to write, curate, put together, and really find the right content for you. So this is someone's writing your blog post, someone's writing ebooks, your email content. Think of that as someone who is a creator, a builder of your content. Then we move on to a connector. A connector is someone who takes the content that has been created and shifts that into distribution. All too often, we're creating just brilliant content, but if we are not sharing it to our right audience and getting those conversions of people, whether it's on social and email, going to your website, it is useless. It's kind of like that analogy of if a tree falls over in the forest and no one hears it, did it actually happen? And I also like to give the analogy of like, if you go to gym and you don't post about it on social, did you even do it? So that is very, very essential to the success of scaling out your content, is you absolutely have to be able to share it. You have to get it in the hands of your target audience, in the hands of your customers, in the hands of your prospect. And this is where your distributor comes into play. For us, it was our social media manager, our distribution team, who would then take the content that we produce, whether it's a blog, an ebook, and share it in the right channels, whether this was paid or organic content on social. And this is what the pod looked like. The connector would be our designer, someone who could lay it out, an ebook or anything that was branded with the logo. So this team worked really, really well together. For an example, if you only have 1 person on your team and that's you doing all the marketing, is there someone else perhaps in sales that's closest to the prospects or the target audience that could write a post for you and you could share it with the network? Is there someone that's well connected? What about some of your investors that have a really strong influential network? Reach out to them. Maybe they could act as that distributor as you are building out the team. So once you have this original early stage content team and it works like a well-oiled machine, you can then replicate that exact pod. So your next pod might be a customer marketing specialist who would then act as a builder. A distributor could be, your email or marketing operations person who's really diving into email automation, whether you're using HubSpot or you're using Marketo or Pardot or even MailChimp or some of the other mass email providers. Now, SalesLoft, on the other hand, is very much personalized semi-automation in terms of connecting. So it's instead of marketing, which is one-to-many, SalesLoft is one-to-one communication with your prospects. And that's really how I like to look at an early stage team, is looking at this pod. And it's made sense for me. I've shared this with quite a few early stage startup companies, and it sounds like it's doable. It's easy to wrap your brain around when you think of it as a builder just strictly creating content, a distributor who's pushing it out to the masses, and a connector who speaks between someone who's building and curating the content and someone who is sharing it. All right, and this is looking at how you can really scale it. And if you want to grab a screenshot of this, this just tells you people who create and generate it, write a blog, and the connectors who close the loop, and the distributors who without them, the content is wasted. And over here, I talk about using agile methodology. We run the team on a sprint basis, which is a 2-week sprint, very similar to what a product or engineering team uses. It allows us to stay very focused on that mission that I mentioned early on and the metrics that we want to hit to deem that we are successful based on hitting that mission, and then identifying how we can do that through our quarterly priority project. And by having an agile and a sprint methodology, we can go week by week saying we want to accomplish these items. Now, if it doesn't check something off your priority list for that quarter, or if it's not moving the needle on your metrics, why are you doing it? So it allows you to stay hyper-focused and really tuned in to what you need to achieve. All right. So moving on to that. Now, I've shared about creating your mission, how you're going to accomplish it, and then, of course, your SWOT analysis and your quarterly goal. So what I would suggest is creating a one-page strategic plan. This allows you to keep that focus. And I'm going to share this template with you as well so that you can build this out. And I'd encourage you to take some time to build this out, and it's really effective because all too often, I know how it is, you'll start off with saying, okay, I'm going to accomplish X number of visitors to the website. I'm going to have 10% conversions. I'm going to send out 3 emails a week. I'm going to host a webinar. I'm going to host a blab chat. And I am going to go to 2 events and 3 networking events this quarter. Well, you get sidetracked on that, let me just tell you, and you lose all sight of your goals and metrics. But having this one-page strategic plan allows you to stay hyper-focused on accomplishing that mission. So then you have your benchmarks at the end of the quarter. So when you forecast for the next quarter, you can say, okay, this is what I achieved. Let's increase that by 10%. Let's push the mark on that. Or maybe we have more resources to play with. Maybe we have more people on the team. Maybe we have a few extra dollars to play with. Well, then let's scale that according to those resources. And then at the end of that next quarter, you can have a look and really scale it out, and even take this to investors and say, look, this is what we did with X number of dollars, and this is what we can do. This is what we forecasted. And so it really is a great forecasting model. And so when you build this out, look at your core values. What does it mean to you? What do you want to strive toward? What is your mission? Is it necessarily being the world-class authority in XYZ? What does that look like to you? And then how are you going to accomplish that mission? And if anyone is on the webinar and would like to see a very early stage strategic plan that we used here, I'd be happy to share that with you from the very, very early days, where each of those are built out and the SWOT analysis was built out as well. So just give me a shout. And
yes, please.
Okay, awesome. Guys, this is really awkward for me because I can only see my slide deck and I can't see anyone else. And it feels like people are walking past the office and wondering who on earth I'm talking to. But I'm getting really animated over here. So I'm so glad.
Tami McQueen, do you want to, should we maybe show it at the end of the presentation, like circle back on it?
Yeah.
And then we can sort of
do that.
Awesome.
Yeah,
cool. We'll do that.
Awesome. Yeah, and then so what you'll do then, let's carry on just working down this as the template. So when you come back to this, you can work on it. The analysis, your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Then your quarterly goals. Now, in complete transparency, this has evolved immensely over the period of 2 years that I've been putting together one-page strategic plans. From the very early days, it was how many blog posts I would create in a quarter, to now it is what is the monthly recurring revenue associated with that content. So it has evolved. You can see that it changes. And I think just having those benchmarks in the very, very early stages can be hugely impactful to your success. And as you move down, it's like, what are your quarterly priority projects? And these are the items that are going to help you accomplish your mission and really speak to that SWOT analysis. All right, let's move on. Some of you, are you familiar with TRELLO or an ASANA board? We swear by this, and it really allows us to stay super focused during that sprint period of what cards we want to use. I can recommend the book Death by Meeting. It is a phenomenal. I think I've got it on my desk over here. Let me have a look. Yeah, here we go. Let me pull it off. It is Death by Meeting. and it is Patrick Lencioni, and it starts off with a bit of a fable in the beginning. It's a business fable, and then it really goes to why meetings are such a critical element of the business strategy. And love this book, and it really allows you to focus on what needs to get done. And so dive into the agile methodology a little bit. And then if any of you, I think it takes a little bit more than just a webinar to dive into this, but Sean will gladly share my email with you or tweet me, and I'll get in touch with you one-on-one to share a little bit more about setting up a Trello board or your ASANA board for agile methodology. So just shoot me a note on Twitter and we can connect.
A webinar just on that, Tami.
Perfect. I'm up for it. Sounds great. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
What do all the colors mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. What we do is each person has their own cards that they create per week. And we have created different labels. So we're able to label it according to social, email marketing, event marketing, content, analytics, design work. And so you can really tailor this board specifically to what you're working on. And then we use the Fibonacci numbering system. So that is why you'll see 1, 3, 5, 8, 13 on the board here. And so this allows you to track the velocity of the work or the output that you're doing. And I'd love to go into this in great detail. And as Sean mentioned, we can maybe do a webinar specifically on that. But we look at a specific number of points that we want to hit in a week basis. So if you look at it, you'd think about 5 points is vaguely equivalent to a day's worth of work. So ideally, not necessarily from get in office at 9 a.m. and you leave at 5 and that's the only thing you work on. So during the course of the week, maybe you spend an hour on a Monday, maybe 3 hours on Tuesday, but it's a sizable chunk of your sprint that you need to be dedicating to the specific project. And that's how you really focus your attention. And then nothing gets added to the sprint board unless it's on your sprint. Because so often you're going to have people running into your office, and marketing especially. People like to think of marketing as the folks that plan parties and make things look pretty. And that's not at all what you want to be really assimilated with. And this allows you to not only coach your team to stay focused on hitting those priority projects and those metrics, but, you know, coaching the rest of the organization, what it is that you do. So, okay, sorry, we can't fit it into sprint this week, but how about next week? And so they'll come back next week. Maybe it's important, maybe it's not. But it really helps the organization learn about what's important to you and also to them as well. All right, so what's really important is creating content that lasts, content that you're going to use over and over again. And it's not just a blog post that you put out today and it's dead tomorrow. You know, it's reached its capacity online, but something that has a little bit of longevity. So also, you might think, well, it's only me. How am I going to produce 5 blog posts a week? How am I going to write an ebook every day? Well, you're not going to. But what you can do is create a content flywheel. And I think this is the money shot right here. What this does is it allows you to take one big piece of content and think of it as starting off with a webinar. So for example, we're going to take this webinar, and from this webinar, we could create an ebook. And this ebook could be, you know, building a content machine, and I could list out all the steps. We could have different subtopics and then write about it. We could have templates within that ebook, and we could really drive an ebook and push that out on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. You could even create an infographic from this specific webinar. From that ebook. Yes.
Sorry, just a question. When someone asks if it's okay to share the wheel.
Yes, please take a screenshot.
Cool. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, go for it. All right.
You can keep going now.
Okay. I got the green light. And then from that, what you want to do is that ebook, you can then build out several blog posts that you can scale out over the course of the next month. You can have one blog post from that ebook, from each subsection of that ebook for the next month. Within each of those blog posts, you can have 3 tweets. You can post it on LinkedIn 3 times. And then you can, share it in a newsletter that you have. You can share it on email. You can have a link to it in your PS line, on your email. So it's really, and then of course, once you have the recording of the webinar, you can then take little snippets, little video snippets, 10-second snippets that you can put in Instagram or Facebook or whatever. So you really have a lot of content that you're working with that you can do. So start with a big piece. And from one webinar, if you have just that investment of 45 minutes a month, just look at it as one 45-minute investment of driving a webinar. Now, if you're thinking, well, I don't know what to even start with my webinar. Well, who's your biggest fans? Who are some of the influencers in your industry? Reach out to them. I'm sure they'd be thrilled to talk about what they're good at, what they love to. Sean reached out to me. I was like, oh, yes, sign me up. I'm in. So what you can do is reach out to your influencers. Do you have any early adopters of your product? Any users that started from day one? Is that a case study for you? You could even build out a case study first and then host a webinar. So now you even go back a step on your content flywheel. And you can really do that whole wheel over there. So I think that gives you a lot of ground to cover as well. All right, and that just talks again. Oh, also polls, surveys. I think that's great. Once I don't know if any of you have seen on Twitter, you can even have a poll on there. So that creates a lot of content. Ask some questions. Like, what are some of the questions you could ask? For example, how should I build out a content team, or whether it is specifically based on your product or your service that you offer. Create a poll online. See what some people are talking about. See what the industry talks about. Write a blog post about those findings. Create knowledge-based articles from your product as well. Now, those are some of the types of content to consider. I love this platform. Crowdcast is a great opportunity. There's another one out there that you could use where you can have 4 people online, blabs, webinars. There's so many different mediums out there that you can leverage. People love this informal, just pick it up and let's go. I love this platform because it seems very informal. We're chatting online, on Twitter. It's, we can have that conversation and keep it going. I think a lot of people have moved away from that very traditional setup. Okay, let me go into a special room. I mean, I've got my earphones plugged in and here we go. So really just take it as it is, have fun with it. Try and look for different ways to create, infographics are great. People love to consume that visual content. And then you think, okay, well, gosh, how am I going to scale this out? How am I even going to start with this? Well, you need to create an editorial calendar. And what you can do is sit down with your team at the get-go in the beginning of the quarter and build it out. And so you can start out with, well, we want one webinar every month. And so you can put that on the calendar, and then the next week you can say, well, here's my ebook, and then these are my subsequent 4 blog posts. And you can fill that out and have a few spots to still fill in. So that'll allow you to get going. And I have a template for you. You know it was coming. And so if you have a look at that, it will say Monday, who's it written by, what's the due date, what's the status? And I really recommend putting this in a Google Doc as well. This will allow you to share it very seamlessly and create what you do need with the stakeholders in some of that content. I always have a few blocks open for multiple headlines, which I think you need to have, because so often you can really spur that creativity with different headlines. And one of my favorite things to think about is, when you are standing in line at the grocery store, have a look at some of those magazines on the side. Now look, they get a little racy. So Cosmo, Men's Health, Women's Health, take a look at those. 10 best ways to get into shape this summer, or 9 winter fixes that'll keep you healthy all season long. those headlines are there on that shelf because they know you're going to pick that magazine up. So when you think about writing content that is consumable and just tangible for your audience, think about that prospect, that client, that customer standing in line at the grocery store, and they want to pick it up and they want to read about you off the shelf. That's how you've got to think about it. And several other area columns here, write a little synopsis, and it's going to change. It'll help you think. It'll help you best prepare that foundation. And then create, what is the theme? What are the content? And then what is your call to action? You cannot write a piece of content without a clearly defined call to action. You absolutely have to have something that gets them to do something. Are they going to go to your website? Are they going to tweet about it? Are they going to sign up for a free trial? Or are they going to talk to you on the phone? That has to be very, very clear. And I always love to ask a question at the end of a blog post or an end of a piece of content that says, what do you think? What is going to engage the conversation further? And have that in there. At the end of it, once you publish it, I'd encourage you to put the publish URL here. So you have, again, this over here to revert back to. All right, and I'll share these docs with you as well. Some resources. If you were at some of our jams, you know that we have some books that we are huge fans of, and we share them quite frequently. These are some of my favorite books over here, and I think some of the ones that are really, really impactful in the content journey. And then these over here, these are simple hacks that you can really leverage and talk about a subject that you have no idea. You just run out of those magazine ideas. You just don't know where to start. Type in Google these two items here and dive into some of the topics, and these will spit out some topics for you. It's genius. Let me just tell you, it's genius, and it's like our little secret here. Another book, let me see what I have on my desk. I'm pulling them all out here. Let's have a look. This is one of my favorites. This is just a feel-good book. You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. It's just some really fun, you know, when you get down, startup world's hard, building on this team is tough, you know. But you know what? You're a badass, and you got to read this book. And you know, there's just some great nuggets of information. I'd check that out. There's just a whole lot right out there right now. I listened to an audiobook on the way to the coast this weekend. It's called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. It is fantastic. Ben Horowitz wrote it, and it is just phenomenal. I'd recommend checking that out as well. And that's all I got, folks. If you have questions, I am here to answer anything you have. And you know, I want to be helpful to you. So if there's something that you think might be a little bit more in depth than you'd like to, shoot me an email or tweet me. I'd be more than happy to help you hop on a Skype call or a Google Hangout. I'm pretty flexible. I'm getting adjusted with the New Zealand timing, so I can handle that.
So Tam McQueen, you can probably get rid of your share screen slide deck now and see yourself. We have a bunch of questions in about 20 minutes. Awesome. It is quite weird when you're doing these things. Because you can't see who you're talking to, and you kind of feel like no one's listening.
Yeah, like, well, hopefully someone's listening.
All right, so a bunch of questions. We will share the questions, not the questions, we'll share the documents and the link later. So the most upvoted question, how do we create suitable content for social media across Instagram, Snapchat, and Facebook? And I guess to build on that question, how do you know what to build for each platform? Like, you know, Instagram, you need a different vibe. Facebook, you need more long format. You have different conversations on Twitter.
Absolutely, guys. And I would encourage you to try and find the right audience. You're not going to have the same audience. So that is why I am really not keen on the if this then that sort of post where you post on Facebook and it shares across Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Please don't do that. Please, for the love of all marketers out there, do not share something on Twitter and it automatically posts across every other platform. You're going to lose characters. You're going to have to click another link, and you also just don't have the right audience. So you absolutely, there is no use case specific to each industry and the right audience. So you need to dive in and identify who your audience is. For us specifically, on Instagram, I would prefer to use Instagram from our perspective, from a B2B perspective. And I think I see this pretty much across the board from a B2B perspective, is that Instagram is great for culture. It is phenomenal for highlighting your internal culture, hiring, attracting great talent, taking snaps around the office, having your employees take photos over the weekend with their dog, traveling to work, all sorts of stuff like that. And really leverage that as your hiring and an insight into behind the scenes. There's nothing better than if you want to join a company and really seeing what it is like to work there. Twitter, it's short, it's punchy. You've got to be a little edgy on Twitter. I'd say if you can, it's got to be, don't feel like you have to use 140 characters. You really don't. Try and throw in some emojis, use the GIF integration and throw that in, make it fun, engage, get people talking, ask questions, get a little spunky, a little edgy. I love it. I'll ask some questions out there, retweet people, understand who your customers are, who your prospects are, and share some of their content. If you come across an article, tweet them, say, hey, I thought you might find this interesting. So it's not always about you, but having a look at what other people are doing. Facebook is very visual, just like Instagram. People are on Facebook and Google the entire, all the time. Those are two platforms that people are always on, is Facebook and Google. And being in New Zealand, I really found that Twitter's not as big as Facebook is. So I think you can really leverage this to your advantage by hitting the right audience, like getting into their home or getting into their lives, becoming part of their lives beyond just the day-to-day in the office. What can you do to really pique their interest while they're sitting on the couch at home on a Sunday afternoon after the SA All Blacks rugby? And what's going to really pique their interest over there? And, weave into their day-to-day. Instagram, visual, again, and Facebook, LinkedIn is your business network. It's huge. Leverage it. But yes, absolutely tailor the content to the specific audience, the specific channel. And one more thing is, just because Snapchat and Instagram and Pinterest are out there, doesn't necessarily mean you have to be on it. So make sure that if Twitter is your biggest converting social platform or LinkedIn is, stay there. Scale that out. Absolutely nail down that messaging and that audience before you have to spray and pray among everything else. So instead of going, doing it mediocre across multiple platforms, laser in on where your audience is and what you can get the most traction on, and go focus hard on those.
I think as a follow-up question, Sophie, let us know if we answered your question well enough. A follow-on, I think Gary Vee talks a lot about this subject and goes on many rants about people not posting the same content across channel. But in your opinion, what's better? Is it better to be present online at all? So if you don't have as much time, is it better to actually do that post across all platforms, or is it better to just do one post?
I think consistency is more key than just getting across all just different audiences. You absolutely need to be consistent. Don't come out and tweet on Facebook and then go on Facebook and LinkedIn, one message a week, and then expect to build an audience. You're just not. Wait until you can. Wait until you can be present. Or if you're not sharing your own content, ask other people's questions, but you also don't want to be that person that just retweets and just shares everyone else's stuff. You want to show that you're engaged. And if that is 5 minutes a day, listen, a tweet is going to take you 1 minute or less. You can absolutely carve out some time to do that. And I would recommend that you really do take that time and you find value for those people, and you really look at leveraging that as well.
Awesome. Okay, next question. How do you increase quality leads through a content marketing machine?
Increase quality leads. Gosh, you guys are coming up these hard questions at the end of the day, and you're just getting started over there. It's finding the right audience and finding what they need. What is it? Look at it from a value prop. What is going to be the value add to them, rather than you selling your product? Instead of you pitching your product and really driving yourself, find what is valuable to them, what is going to help them in their day-to-day. So you're going to absolutely weed out all the trash that you don't need, people who aren't going to make an impact, who aren't even going to sell. I think you can do this by identifying your audience and not putting out content just to different platforms just to be there. Is that answer that? Maybe a little bit?
I think so. That was my question. Okay, so how do you make content that people will respond to?
Find out what they need. What are their pain points? I think one of a very valuable thing is listen to some of you, if you have a sales force and you can sit in with some of their calls, listen to some of the objections that they hear on the other end of that call. What are some of the pain points that your prospects have, or your target audience? What are they facing, and what does your product solve, or what do your services really do for them? Does it solve anything? I think we're a little dark. There we go. What value add can you have? And it's looking at what is your value to them. If you can really create content that engages them, they can respond to that value. If you are targeting a pain point and you know how to solve that through your content, whether it's an ebook, here are templates that you can create to reach, the right people, or this is the great marketing that you can use, or really talking to their pain points. That's going to have the best engagement because they're going to use it. They're going to share it with other people in your industry as well.
What's been the most surprising pain point that you've come across that was completely left field and unrelated to, I guess, the core of your activities but has yielded the most results? It's very definitely is content that allows people to be more effective in their day-to-day. Sometimes it is instilling a process in what they need and addressing their pain points to realize that you helping them streamline something that they do in their day-to-day, helping them be more effective in their jobs, in turn recognizes that they need your product or your service. So approach it to solve their problem and be a value add to them rather than you selling your product to them, pushing it. So it's marketing, instead of us pushing the traditional way, here's push, 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 push. People have so much coming at them, they get to choose now what they receive from a marketing standpoint. So allow them to receive it. Allow them to take it in because they need it. Not because you're telling them to take it, but because they want to consume it because it's going to help them in their day-to-day. Kind of like this chat.
What we got going on, yeah?
Are you all right?
Whole lot of smiley faces and hashtags, yeah. I love it.
Okay, so next question. Is there any process that you use to identify where threats or risks can be turned into opportunities?
I think you can do a lot of, wait, rephrase that. You mean in terms of opportunities for sales or opportunities for creating different pieces of collateral or content?
Victoria, are you still with us? Can you maybe re-clarify your question?
I don't want to go down the rabbit hole over here and not address what you're looking for.
Maybe if she's still here, and then we'll go to the next question.
Okay.
How much budget should you allocate towards social media for the launch of a startup?
I used $0 for advertising on social media in the very early days. So we spent very, very little. I think you can do a lot with very little. It's hard. The social media channels are very saturated. You're going to spend a lot of money and get a very little traction. Facebook is hard to make an impact. It is hard to make an impact on Twitter. So I would recommend that you go organic from the get-go. See what you can do. Leverage your influencers. Leverage your biggest fans and their networks to really drive your content hard. Don't feel like you need to drop Don't feel like you need to drop heaps of budgets on your social media channels. You really don't. You can really grow it organically if you have that money. If you have investment dollars to spend, by all means, go for it. But you know what? You can do a lot with very little.
Good answer. Victoria's question was, building resilience to an organization often requires looking at where risks can be leveraged. Where's this question? Oh, yeah. E.g., a competitor can be... Okay, you can answer that.
Building in resilience to an organization often requires looking at where risk could be leveraged. Competitor could become a collaborator or a customer. Do you go through this sort of process for content generation or marketing? You know, we very seldom do we look at what competitors are doing in content marketing, because I think often that skews our vision for what we want to do and be the leader in content, the leader in being the authority in the industry. So I think it's really key for us to lead with our own convictions. Yes, there are competitors, but I think it's not so much your competitors, but turning prospects that are using a competitor into your customer. And I think that is what you can do with solid value-added content that drives your value prop. Not selling yourself. Again, it's what your process instills or what your product instills within an audience or within the content that they can leverage to be helpful and a value add that your competitor is not doing. Just show and exude customer love. I think it's that customer experience that you love on your customer more than anything else, more than your competitor ever will, that will get them to convert to your product, your service.
I had a question. So I guess recently for me, I've been struggling with writing. It takes a lot of time and inspiration to sit down and be able to write. So I guess, how do you encourage your team, or even how do you set aside time to write, and what does that look like for you?
This is a great question, and something that the TRELLO board or the ASANA board can really keep you hyper-focused on, because so often we think, oh, I got to do this blog post, you sit down and write, an email comes through, I got to go do that, got to do that. So you allocate that point, you allocate the time frame to creating a specific blog. And you have to set to it. I would shut down your email and set aside no more than 30 minutes. Some people just can't focus on a blog or writing for a significant period of time, but dedicate a close of time where you're not looking at email, you don't have a Slack channel open, you don't have anything else open except that you're going to write your blog. Write it, come back to it the next day, edit it, share it with your team, but you absolutely have to set aside time every single day. I'm a huge believer in blocks of time on your calendar. And you can see where, okay, blog post number 1, an hour every single day, and you've got to get into that routine. There are several different Chrome extensions that you can plug in for writers that have a countdown timer on it, and everything shuts off and you lose your entire work if you don't type in 1,000 words or 500 words within the period of time. So it allows you to get over that writer's block. I'm not sure the exact name, but I can go back and have a look and share it back with you guys. But it's really just gets you typing, because so often with writer's block, I've experienced it where I just sit there and I write the same sentence over and I'll delete it, then I'll go back and try again, and I get nowhere. So this forces you to type 500 words, however many words, in a period of time, else you lose everything. Can you imagine that?
I think Write Room is really good for that, where it's like you can block out the entire screen. It's kind of like old school, like green screen days. It's quite fun.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm seeing a few come through here, and this looks really, really cool.
So let's have a look.
Worst writers app ever. It's a nightmare, but effective. Thanks, Claire. I'm going to check it out.
I guess questions. So what's your advice on being more consistent? How do you know that it's actually doable?
How do you know what's doable?
I guess posting, or how do you know if it's too much? Is it like you start at one blog a month, you're doing that really well, you go to bi-weekly?
Yeah, I think it looks at, don't create content just to create content. Create content, good content. There's a difference between having a high velocity of content or a lot of content, but nothing converts, whereas you have 1 or 2 posts that are highly engaged and are going to convert to your website or free trials or whatever it is that you want. But you've got to, you can't just create one blog post and then decide, oh, well, that wasn't effective, I'm not doing it ever again. You've got to be able to say, okay, this quarter, I'm going to create 5 blog posts no matter what, and stick to it, do it, and see how it goes. And then have a look at which blog posts, have a look at Google Analytics, dive in, see how many people visited the site, how many people read it, or in your email newsletter, how many people clicked on that article, and do that for a full quarter. Go from month to month and see what worked. Some things aren't going to work, but don't give up. You know, you've got to give it some time. A/B test it, try different headlines. Give it a shot. You know, you can't just have one blog post and it doesn't work, but also learn at your capacity. Can you produce 3 quality blogs a week? Yes, great, keep doing it, but be consistent about it. Create themes around your week. Mondays, let's write about industry news. Wednesdays, let's talk about a client that's doing something awesome in the industry. Fridays, let's profile someone in the company. And stick to that. It's awesome. People love it. They know it's coming and they expect it in their inboxes, and it's sticky. People love to be engaged in that as well.
Good advice. Okay, so question from Claire. In your agency with clients, do you recommend having different people specializing in different channels or people specializing by brand account?
You know, I think this just depends what your resources you have available and what your audience is. I think it is important to eventually specialize your team, but in the very early days, it's hard to have that specific attention based on the resources you have and your team that you have. But yes, understanding your specific niche and your target audience, absolutely specialize. Go after what they do and allow them to help, whether it's a customer success or service function in the organization or your marketing. You do need to specialize to be able to scale effectively. You can't have people running around doing all different things, juggling multiple things, wearing different hats at the same time. You know, something's going to drop pretty soon.
Awesome. How can we build connections with our target audience and learn more about what they value if you are possibly at a disadvantage with your age and sex, young women with a 50-year-old male CEOs as clients?
My question back to you is, why do you feel that you're at a disadvantage? Is it because you don't understand the the audience that you're speaking to, or is this a perceived disadvantage? Because I don't think you're at a disadvantage. I think you just need to understand that audience a little bit better and what they want. And I don't think that's very difficult to find in doing listening. Maybe if you listen a little bit closer to what maybe they're sharing on social, what it is that drives their engagement, I think you'd be able to target them a little bit closer. Understanding what your buyer persona is. Take time to build out buyer personas. There's so many different posts online that you can have a look at, and I think I might be able to get one for you right now. Let me have a look, and I'll post it in the chat here.
I might invite Elise, if you're there. I'm going to invite you on screen so you can specify your question, because I think it's an interesting one, especially when you're talking about New Zealand. Let's see if this works. I might scare someone off. Did it work?
All right, folks, give me a second. I'm about to post this over here. Here's a great article for you as well on persona-based selling. Selling to your personas. Check it out.
Awesome. I think on that note, like in New Zealand, if you are targeting CEOs of companies, especially corporates who have a need for something, just back it up with data.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And that tends to go along the conversation quite well. I've from my experience dealing with like our sponsors and stuff, I haven't ever had a problem being in a room with sort of this clientele. You kind of just have to make them aware of like the problem that you're solving, and then back it up, and they're usually open ears.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess from a content perspective, you want to use a tool that they use, which I would probably say is more LinkedIn in New Zealand.
Yes, absolutely. Get into their space. Understand what it is that they do on a day-to-day. What does their workday look like? What sort of tools are they engaged in? Where are they in the funnel? Like, who are they talking to? What are they doing? And really, try and position yourself in what they do.
Awesome. So question from Vincent. He says he finds that he can spend ages researching content for a specific blog post, time that's often wasted. How do you efficiently research your blog topics? Do you have a certain structure or template that you follow?
Yes, I think I shared it on that. Let me go back to this. Give me a sec here. Can you see my screen at the moment?
No.
No, bummer. Okay. Anyway, what you want to do then is have a look at there's several different tools that you can use, and it is a godsend. So type in content topic generator or idea generator, and there's two that I'm a huge fan of. It's Content Ideator, and there's a HubSpot content topic generator as well. So have a look, and what you can do is type in some of your topics that you're writing on. So let's say, for example, you're working on marketing automation and you want to blog about marketing automation. Type that in there and it'll pop out so many different topics. And if that's not something you use, it'll at least get you thinking about what you could be using. So that's a quick and easy hack. Again, think about standing in the grocery store. What are people wanting? If you were in that position, what would be helpful to you? What would you like to learn about? And again, one of the biggest things is, what are some of the objections, the objection handling that your team is doing at the moment? What are some of the questions investors are asking, potential investors? What are they asking you? This is what understanding what your ideal customer profile is as well.
Awesome. Few more minutes, I think. How are you going for time, Tami?
Let's keep going. Whatever you need, I'm here.
Cool. So Ben, hi Ben, welcome back. Has asked, what are some of the best tools you use to track engagement with your content across platform?
Google Analytics, simple and easy. I would definitely recommend diving into Google Analytics. Having that on your site can really see where it peaks. What you can use, some simple ideas. MailChimp has a pretty decent reporting function to it for emails. You can really dive into that if you don't have a more rigorous sort of platform like a Marketo or Pardot or HubSpot, where it really dives really deep into some of the analytics. So I would look at something very simple. MailChimp offers that. Google Analytics, if you do have the capacity, try and get Google Analytics certified. You can go through the tutorials online. It's hugely beneficial to see traffic on your site, what time people are coming in, how long they're spending on the site, what sort of clicks they're doing. There's some other tools out there, a little bit more expensive, the subscription-based, where you're paying for where people are, heat maps on your site to see where they're clicking and things like that. But you know what? Keep it simple. Go with Google Analytics. It's a simple plugin, and you can really dive into that quite a bit. And then, of course, Google has a great knowledge base as well that you can dive deep into.
Good answer. Ben, did we answer your question? Is LinkedIn worth investing in now, or is it dead, dying?
LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Investing in spending ad dollars, or investing in creating a profile and being active on there?
Growth Hacking Nation, can you confirm? Ad dollars.
Ad dollars. I think if your audience is B2B, I think that's where you need to be. You can absolutely target who you're after. For example, we're targeting executive sales leaders, vice presidents of sales, sales managers. They're all on LinkedIn. So if that's where your audience is, I would definitely recommend it. The ad profiling, the segmenting of markets, the targeting is spot on. It's far better than Facebook and Twitter for a B2B market, in my opinion.
Is that the same for content distribution as well?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
Pleasure, Growth Hacking Nation.
We've already answered that. What's the best channel to write a blog that embeds to your website? Do you have any recommendations?
Something simple. Medium is great. I would really recommend. It's easy to get started and going. Great following there. Medium is a great platform. Check out. Squarespace has a blog integrated into it. Check that out. WordPress, of course. But if you're looking for something simple, I would go ahead and start posting on Medium, and then leverage LinkedIn Pulse. If you are going to be leveraging your ad dollars on LinkedIn, or you're going to be posting and sharing content on there, become a thought leader. And LinkedIn is a great platform to becoming a thought leader in your space. Write on there independently of the company. Now, write this yourself. Be the face of your company, your product, your service, and share from there as well.
Awesome. Hopefully we answered your question, Ashley. Okay, so a bit of a curveball for you from Anna. She said, we have a solution to a problem most people don't know they have. How do I market to a market that doesn't know it's there?
Well, most people don't know that they have a problem. And showing them that they have a problem is really the first thing in terms of how your content can speak to that. And again, showing that you are the value add and selling them the process, selling them of how you can solve that problem or what the solution is, and then diving into your product. So I think it's more so not about what your product can do for them, but what pain points you can solve for them, what their days, what their life, what their productivity would look like if they did not have that pain point. Loop that back into how your product can address that. So absolutely show the value of why it's needed, what their life would look like if they did not have that pain point. How many more sales could they make? How more effective could they be if they didn't have that pain point?
Do you think becoming a bit of a thought leader, like you were talking about last time, could be a good position for this space as well? So sort of targeting those people, but as an individual thought leader, contributor.
Absolutely. There is so much value to being a thought leader that people just don't give. It takes very little time, but it's hugely beneficial. It's shared very much. People look to you, and it ties into the overall company mission of being the go-to authority in the industry. If you are leveraging that and really championing the brand, championing the service you offer, championing the pain point that you might address, is really, really effective in driving your message home. If you are looked at, people trust thought leaders. I have people, when I think of marketing, I immediately think of thought leaders in the space. If I think of technology stacks or sales people, they are folks that come to mind immediately. And those are the people I'm going to turn to for advice, people I'm going to turn to for product recommendation, for service recommendations. And you want to be that person. And I'm likely to use your product if I trust you as the go-to source, someone who's not salesy, someone who's sharing other market insight, industry innovations, what's pushing the needle in your industry. And if you're very transparent and, share some of, everyone loves a rags to riches story. Everyone loves, the underdog. So share some of the pain points you've had. Share some of the trials you've gone through. This is what's made you who you are today, what's made you effective, some of the pivots you've gone through. I think that can be hugely effective in sharing what you're good at and people trusting you as well.
Awesome. Okay, last question from Elise. Do you know, I think she means, do you know how many dollars companies typically spend on marketing per year?
Oh gosh, no. I don't think it's, there's a number that you can really attribute. There's several different models out there based on percentages that you could allocate to content versus events. It really depends on what your strategy is and what you're trying to accomplish. Are you looking strictly at lead acquisition? Are you looking at branding? What is your goal? Shoot me an email and we can chat a little bit more about this, and we can dive into your use case specifically. But there are a lot of models out there. In the early stages, are you just trying to build up lead acquisition? You want to try and build your pipeline as quick as possible. Then you're going to need to allocate more of your time, your dollars to building the funnel, whether that's through content or through promotions, downloads, just getting data partners. So that's where your money is going to be. If you're looking specifically at branding, some of the more established brands focus on branding. Then you're going to put more of your dollars toward events, strategy. You're going to have a little bit more fun with guerrilla marketing. So there's a few models that you could probably search on Google. But there's really not one size fits all for this.
Awesome. Cool. All right. I am going to wrap. We got through a lot of questions, 15 awesome. Questions we managed to answer, and wow. Your amazing presentation. Thanks so much for joining us, guys, and thanks so much, Tami, for joining us as well. I think this will be available. It's all recorded, and we'll write a bit of a summary post next week. And Tami McQueen might come back if she wants at some point to do further knowledge learnings. I'm trying to convince her to come back to New Zealand again at the moment.
I would love to.
Yep. And then if you could help us out so we can do more stuff like this, specifically tailored to you guys and what you want to learn, if you could fill out our survey, that would be awesome. Any last words, Tami?
Thank you guys so much for having me. It's always a pleasure joining you on a webinar or in person. I have a heart just filled with so much passion for your country and for just this drive of passion you have. So if I can be of any help to you at any time, shoot me a note. I'm available and I'd love to help.
Awesome. See you later, guys.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.